Question 43 is about currency and particularly group scenarios where we have different companies within that group operating with different currencies because of their geographical location. The questions in part deals with the difference between a functional and presentational currency. Remember that functional currency is the currency that we're using for our day-to-day trading activities, whereas presentational currency could be different and is really just about how we present the figures in our financial statements. So in this case, we're looking at BH, which prepares its financial statements in dollars, and that happens to be its functional currency as well. This company is considering acquiring 80% of another called NJ. NJ is based somewhere overseas in a country that happens to use the krone as its currency. It sources all of its raw materials locally, recruits a local workforce and subject to local taxes and corporate regulations. However, most of its sales are from customers in other countries. It says if the acquisition goes ahead, NJ will continue to operate relatively autonomously within the group and will raise its own finance locally. So the question then asks us to identify which two of the statements are true. So the first is that NJ will be a subsidiary of BH, yes it will, and should therefore select the dollar as its functional currency because the entities are part of a group. That isn't true. The functional currency of each company can be dictated at company level, so you can have some international groups where all of the different companies within that group are operating in different currencies without any major issues. The second is that the functional currency of NJ will be determined by the currency that dominates the primary economic environment in which it operates. This one is true. In this case, it's not so much about the sales, but more about the fact that all of the costs of NJ will be in the krone, and therefore on a day-to-day basis, from a practical point of view, its functional currency should be the krone. The third option is that the functional currency of NJ cannot be the krone, as the majority of the sales revenue is not denominated in this currency. That's not true. In fact, in this case, the number of costs which are dealt with in the krone would override the sales figures. The fourth is that NJ should adopt the krone as its functional currency, and yes, we've already identified that that is true based on the fact that so many costs will be incurred in that currency. And just to double check, the last one is that they must adopt the krone as the presentational currency, which is not true. The functional and presentational currency can be different. In actual fact, if they become a subsidiary of BH, the more realistic choice is that the presentational currency would be the dollar because the parent is preparing their accounts in that currency.